we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects. Well, I mean, in general, I would say anything that involves snacks and TV is one of my favorite subjects. So it doesn't really have to be today's actual topic. But today we're going to talk about after school shows and after school snacks, which I feel like is something that everyone can identify with of all ages. Like mom can talk about watching Rin Tin Tin and yeah, exactly. Rin Tin Tin, as she called it. And dad, what did dad watch? Dad watched a concrete wall. Yeah, that's yeah. According to dad, all he had were cufflinks instead of action figures and a concrete wall. That's true. And a brick wall.
He was stuck in front of the TV all the time with a bag of pretzels.
I know.
I'm not sure what he watched. Jeopardy? He's so smart.
There wasn't Jeopardy in 1960. I don't think so.
He's so smart. He probably did watch Jeopardy. That's why he's so smart.
But they had one channel then. Maybe they had two. I don't know.
I think it was one channel.
And whatever was on the TV.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the way dad would describe his youth, you wouldn't realize until you like dig a little bit how much TV he watched. Right? Because everyone, if you meet mom, you know mom watches a lot of TV. You just assume it all comes from mom. And
her younger brother literally just sings commercial jingles from his childhood as like children's lullabies.
Oh my God.
Their household
singing the children's lullaby. The commercials.
The commercials is the best.
But dad, you think like when dad describes one version of his childhood, you think like it's just stickball and concrete and
getting hit in the head with an ashtray or something.
Handball. Yeah. We just watched the ashtray burn, like that kind of a thing. But I guess he did watch a lot of TV. But we're going to talk about after school snacks. But before we get into that, Lily, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm having an emotional.
Hold on 1 second. Let me pause for a second.
Your household is a hot mess today.
Or maybe just let him outside. Oh my goodness. Things are out of control here today.
Is Allie just like you're on your own?
No, Allie has somewhere to be. Allie's already or she's leaving soon. So, okay.
She's already run half a marathon, had 6 almonds, and is
so last night.
Ready to
on the subject of Allie having almonds last night.
She had 7 almonds. Oh my God, is she gonna be
dinner?
okay?
For dinner.
For dinner.
Dessert was 1 Cheerio.
No, a rice cake. She loves her rice cake.
No, she'll eat a real dessert. She'll eat a bowl of cereal in the middle of the night. But last night she definitely, like you're making fun of specifically that. Last night she definitely had almonds. Although I ate cereal for dinner. So, anyways, okay. So before we talk about after school shows and snacks, and I've got everyone excited about today's topic.
Oh, okay.
I want to ask Lily, how are you doing?
I'm surviving my emotional hangover. From
right,
Becky.
Everybody's gone.
Give you whiplash,
except for mom and dad. And I unpacked Becky's apartment and what was left, and then unpacked it at my house. And then
so everybody leaves, and then you're just left with the remnants.
Yes,
essentially, yes.
Amazing.
Correct.
And her apartment was so beautiful, so I said goodbye to it.
I would have never walked in again. I would have said, whoever comes next gets what's ever left in the house.
Keep the plates.
Once Becky was exactly.
The truth is, when I went back after, like when I went so many times before she arrived, it was so fun. It was like setting up a dollhouse for your dolls. It was really fun. And then when she left, I was like, this isn't fun anymore. Boo.
It was amazing. I don't know if I could ever go back to visit you if I'm not in that specific apartment.
Seriously, I don't know how we're going to one up that, but I got Becky internet. And so I have 2 really quick stories. I got Becky internet so that she could have internet. The best internet in Europe. In Europe. But somehow my cell phone got attached to that account. So I nearly canceled my entire cell phone, lost my number, everything when I canceled that plan.
Lily, I know,
but I
have questions
saved my
about
cell
whether or
phone.
not your husband knows English, but do you know Spanish?
No, dude, like no telephone company in any country is legit. Those
No,
guys
that's
are
true.
like
That's true.
mafioso, casino.
They're like,
like-
oh, you want to downgrade your service? Well, you have to provide 6 proofs of citizenship.
Right. And
your
they're like,
social
oh, you want
Yeah.
another line? We're going to give you 6 cell phone numbers or something that you now like have charged to your line. It was insane. Anyways, then the other thing is that I realized my car can do a feature where it will read your text messages to you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible.
So
I
it was just reading them to you?
So I was driving my kids for about an hour yesterday alone in the car with my kids, and it kept popping up text messages. And I was like, oh, I'll push play. And it was our family chat. And it was you leaving Nashville to go back to DC. And it was literally like, gonna get on the plane. Love you guys. Becky Corman. Love you guys so much. Mom Cell. Love you. Safe travels. Somebody else like Vlad Cooperman. Love you guys. You're the best. Allie. Love you so much. And I was like, oh my God, this family. This is ridiculous. I was like, we love you. Shut up, guys. Stop. And I couldn't get the messages to stop. I was like just reading a stream.
You're like, when you read it out loud, we are so annoying.
It was when I read it on the text, it's so sweet, but it was just like this weird, like robot voice. Shai Corman. Love you guys. And then Becky Corman. Love you guys so much. And I was just like, stop. It was very funny though. Our family.
That's amazing. Sweet. The robots are taunting you with everyone.
I love yous. I was like, I miss everybody. Stop reading these messages.
Well, that's why we have to be polite to the robots, because when they rise up, they'll remember who was mean to them.
Mm-hmm.
Beck, you got anything?
Sure. Yeah, Vlad and I listen. We're really happy to be back. Kids are, so happy to be back.
Your kids have upgraded. It's amazing.
Really, yeah. But I would say Vlad and I needed to do a little retail therapy this week.
Okay.
We have not owned a new TV in, I calculated, 15 years.
Yeah, which is weird.
And so we just pulled the trigger yesterday and we bought ourselves a massive television. So big that we had to go and buy a new piece of living room furniture that it could sit on.
It's a 65-inch television, which is size. Big.
It's not the biggest.
That is not the biggest. You didn't go crazy. I don't want people to think that you bought a drive-in theater.
An 80 something.
No, 80 is too big.
That's too big.
For the one that
you need
those were the two choices. And
how big is your house that you need an 80-inch screen
TV? And we're like, I guess we'll just have to get the 65. And but
your TV before was 42. 65 is going to seem huge.
People don't realize though is that our house is very small and the living room is very small. So it's a 65-inch television, but in that space
on a 32-inch wall.
It's like a very
you have to walk around the TV. It's like sticking out.
So we're really excited. And we decide, we're like, put the kids to bed. We got to test out this new.
Oh, you already have it.
Take it for a spin. Yeah, we went and bought it. Went to Best Buy, bought it yesterday. And we're like, what's a big blockbuster movie we can put on?
I bet Becky watched Avatar.
No, it to be something new. So Vlad chose the latest Jurassic Park Dominion.
I'm sorry. That guy
that's not Without My Dinosaur.
Judgy about so many movies. Okay, so wait on a second. Now hold on. This is a movie where a dinosaur, a murdery, violent animal, asks a man to save its baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not even my problem with it. So we saw the first one, actually, when we were on our honeymoon. We never saw the second one. Now we're
watching a second one?
Yeah, there's a second one. Now
in this series, in Jurassic World.
Isn't this
series.
the second one in the series?
No, this is the third one.
Oh, Jesus.
It doesn't matter what the second one was about. Nothing will explain what is going on in the movie.
Clearly, they're independent of each other.
Plot in the second one to make anything make sense.
What the second one? The only thing you need to know about the second one is that the dinosaurs arrive in America
right now
for the second time.
I figure the dinosaurs are everywhere, and there's a clone kid, and that's the only two things.
There's a clone child.
There's a clone child.
Now we're cloning humans.
Yeah. Now there's a clone.
Does it have dinosaur powers?
We're gonna find out because she's a hot commodity.
Oh,
so we only stayed awake for the first hour.
Oh.
It's a 2.5-hour movie.
We started Rock of Ages with our kids yesterday, and that was
that appropriate?
You know,
borderline not.
People don't realize that Shai Seeing Rock of Ages was the precursor to this podcast, because he and I once went on a 45-minute walk and he talked for 45 minutes giving me an in-depth analysis of that movie.
Oh, I love that movie. But, yeah, that it's not, I would say for the most part, it's a pretty PG movie. The inappropriateness are frankly, just there's a lot of sexy dancing in certain scenes, and there was definitely moments where we and the kids were all cringing, but even the sexy dancing scenes are played for a little bit of comedy, so it's hard to argue that it's really inappropriate.
Was that a Broadway show?
Unless you're in,
it was.
Yeah, it was a Broadway show. Unless you're in the Footloose town and you like sexy dancing bothers you. I think people.
Which is how I describe your household, Shai.
At one point we were very. At one point we were very scandalized as a group, but I'm also guys, there's just some sexy dancing going on. Everybody relax, and it's played for comedy because they're funny scenes. Tom Cruise is very funny in it. Now our kids get Tom Cruise now, which I think if we hadn't seen Maverick first and we were explaining to them that this guy playing this over the top rock star is, kind of playing on his actual public identity, that I
wish Tom Cruise did more comedy.
He's very funny in this movie because his whole thing is he plays this very it's a straight man character that is obviously ridiculous. And but yes, it was a Broadway show. Now I have to tell you, the movie is pretty PG-13. This is a clear situation where they bought the play, and Adam Shankman, who I thought did a great job, he did Hairspray also, had no intention, as far as I can tell, and having watched the interviews about it, because I've gone deep on this movie, they could not remake the play into the movie. The play has some very dark, it's played for comedy, but it's some very dark themes that you couldn't make a movie that would cost as much as that play to make, because of the song licensing and the actors. They'd have to make it very R-rated, because there's some terrible things that the characters do. The Tom Cruise character in the play is the bad guy all the way to the end. There's no redemption for him. Whereas in the movie, there's redemption for that character. And my kids were watching it, and they actually asked, they said, is he going to get better at the end? We think he should get better at the end. So I think there's this distinctive thing that you're watching it as a movie, and you need a little bit more of a Hollywood ending to this musical, because the actual ending of the play is appropriate for the play, but kind of depressing. So anyways, we started watching that, but we got to the halfway mark. The kids are really into it. We'll finish watching it this morning at some point. But now let's turn to our subject of the day. Our subject of the day is after school shows and snacks. And I just want to start with after school rituals. Let's just start there, because I think everyone had their after school ritual. We were talking about this at work the other day. That's what inspired this. So if any of my colleagues are listening, which again, highly doubt it, every time we mention someone, we're like, no, they don't listen to the podcast either. But for me, I had two big rituals. I won't get into the exact shows, but I would come home. I'd definitely not do homework. There were kids who had to do their homework before, when they came home. In fact,
8 hours in school. How could you possibly do homework?
We were encouraged to go outside. I remember coming home, changing out of my uniform, and going outside.
You were encouraged to go on? I don't remember that.
We're watching Oprah.
And I'd come home, and I would get the circular yellow Costco or Club Prix, as it was called, Club Prix, Club Price, as Mom called it, nachos. These weren't Tostitos. These weren't organic.
These are very off-brand.
These are old-fashioned sawdust corn chips. And I would make a 5-layer nacho chowder with cheese that I shredded myself in the, with the cheese grater, and get a jug of orange juice. It was probably
orange juice. I added that to the list. That wasn't on the. It was from concentrate.
It was from concentrate. Now, just to describe concentrate for people.
What is concentrate? Is that not a thing everywhere?
It's a cylinder. No. Everyone seems to remember it from our age group, because I brought it up recently, because I started thinking about it a lot recently. Concentrate is a cylinder of frozen juice, but it's the size of
it's like a
Coke
can.
It's a can, and they
Pillsbury.
Yeah. You pull the top off, you drop the like frozen log into a pitcher, and then you pour hot water or regular water over it, and then just like stir it or shake it or something.
But
and then
was there no Tropicana when we were kids?
Mom and Dad did not let us get Tropicana. They were like, unacceptable. Rich people have Tropicana. You can have Tropicana in Upper Westmount, or once a year the Agans would break it out for breakfast.
Yeah. Breakfast.
Right. And Carmela did the coolest thing. She used to take the little like electric stir, and she'd put it in, it would foam up the Tropicana, and it
looked fancy,
extra fancy. It was amazing. I remember her sticking the like, it's not like an egg beater, it was like a mixer, and she'd like jam it in, and you'd have like extra. But those are the times we were allowed to have it.
Minute Maid concentrate.
I remember one time a can of that like rolled into the back of our minivan and was in there for months, and the van smelled so bad, and it was spoiled orange juice.
So
and
many things that spilled in that van.
If an orange goes bad in my fridge, I have like a massive flashback.
No.
Like,
an orange goes bad. I once left one.
That smell is so brutal.
Remember those denim bags that you would get from, or canvas bags you'd get from Schrader's, that was like the cool kids school bag? It was like the most inconvenient. It just had one flap at the top, and then these little pockets that you couldn't put anything in. Well, I left 2 oranges in there at the beginning of one of the years of high school, and we just had to throw the bag out. I mean, it would hurt. So I'd come home, I'd make my nacho tower, and then I'd lay out on the basement couch and watch TV for 3 hours. And the other one, or until dinner time, which is kind of amazing. I would be eating nacho tower just all the way through dinner. But I mean, you're a teenager, you're hungry all the time.
All the time.
And then the other one would be Vinci Pizzas, which were these pizzas, frozen pizzas you can get in Canada, which don't exist anymore, which makes me sad because I've looked them up just to see if they exist.
To order them.
And they were like a frozen pizza crust with just a smear of tomato sauce, and then you'd open it up.
If it was tomato sauce,
it was tomato sauce.
The ketchup.
Top it yourself.
It was almost like a focaccia.
Okay, question: how many times did you burn your hand taking that thing out of the oven? I think you have a permanent scar on my face.
I use the toaster. I just jam it into the toaster.
How would you get the cheese? Oh,
I put the cheese on top, and then I'd put bacos because we were kosher. So you'd put
fake bacon bits
from a salad in.
The best.
So what about you all? Did you have any specific rituals?
Yes.
I mean, I remember apple juice is a really big part of my childhood, but
Lily's move was juicy with a toppy and
warm apple juice, which is disgusting to me now, but I've loved that. I definitely stole chips off the nacho tower for sure.
I'm the youngest. I'm the least supervised. And by the time you were a bit older, Lily was, I guess, playing outside. I don't know where she was.
Yeah, Lily's really like, talk about some retcon here.
Through the basement, through the mudroom.
Lily's like, I was out jogging.
I watched a lot of Oprah.
Playing soccer, baseball in the park. So I come home through the mudroom. And I knew where Mom stashed we all knew where Mom stashed all of the bags of from like Costco, from Price Club, all the chips and the fun snacks, like the junk food snacks that we weren't allowed to take as part of our school snacks.
Those are the skiing snacks.
So I'd sneak in, I'd get 2 bags of a Humpty Dumpty salt and vinegar with anywhere from 2 to 4 orange juice boxes. I just went straight for the juice box, and I would sit in the basement and make myself a little picnic before ever revealing myself upstairs, right? Because the whole point was to
you couldn't be seen
through the snacks before anyone could see me. Now, keep in mind, as an adult, I have terrible acid reflux problems, and I'm wondering if it's because I just ate vinegar and orange juice every single day.
That is entirely possible.
I just scarred my stomach while watching Oprah, because I'd get home,
at 4, at 4 o'clock, so that you could catch like the second half. We'd end school at 4, and then you could get home to catch like the second half of an Oprah episode.
Yeah, I definitely did not watch Oprah. I remember when kids started talking about Oprah, but I needed my shows. So here I have different phases of life. So I'd be eating the nacho, and sometimes it would be cereal. To be clear, I would eat like an entire box of honeycomb.
When did the Cheese Whiz start? Because I specifically remember doing Cheese Whiz and nachos.
Okay, no. So it was just a matter of what cheese was available.
There were the glass containers of that.
Yeah,
Cheese Whiz.
Mom would have a glass container of Costco's Cheese Whiz, and that's true. And I'd take like spoonfuls and just deposit them in different parts of the nacho tower and then heat it up for sure. That was just that was just an alternative option. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'd have the grated Cabon or seal test cheese. Those are the Montreal brands.
I feel like I just mooched off of whatever you guys were making.
That's true. I don't remember you.
Remember me being big on after school.
So here's my lineup when I was little. When I would say like first part of elementary school. And because we went to this Jewish day school and we got home at like late hours, it was such a drag because you'd miss some of the coolest shows because those are on at like 3:30. All the kids at public school, the Osts, like they'd be home like watching Visionaries and Thundercats, and I'd be just like getting home, and if I'd lucky, I'd catch like the last few minutes of He-Man or the last few minutes of Transformers. Then G.I. Joe, which I wasn't allowed to watch till I was about 10 or 11 because it had guns. Mom and Dad, I guess, were ahead of their time. And then, but then there were other times, like when we lived in Philly, I remember going to Gabe Rubin's house. Shout out to Gabe Rubin, to Gabe Rubin's house. And we watched this show there. They tried out other animated shows around the Transformers, the similar type of shows. And this one was called Inhumanoids. And this was about these giant, massive mutants that lived underground. And one of them called Decompose. If he touched a person, they would mutate into like a horrific zombie. And in the show, there was like a female scientist that was part of the team. And there was one episode where he touched her and she turned into like horrific, terrified zombie. And I couldn't watch the show again. It was like the scariest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. So that was the early days. Then later got a little educational. And I was really into Square One TV. Do you remember Square One?
I do remember Square One. I guess that wasn't in the States. Is that only Canadian?
No, I think Americans had it. I think an American, one of Mom and Dad's like American friends were visiting and the kids got us into it.
Oh,
but Square One was wonderful because it was like a sketch comedy show, but it was also all math themed. And I rewatched it recently on YouTube. And well, my kids like hated every second of it. They're like, what is this show for old people? But when you look at the sketches that they were doing, there was like Abbott and Costello themed sketches. There were magic sketches. They had a whole bunch of music videos. Go back and watch the Angle Dance. I got to tell you, the Angle Dance would be a great... It's all about angles, obtuse angles, and things like that.
There's no Reading Rainbow on here.
Make a good TikTok.
It would make a great new wave song, and they were all in different themes. And then there was another great sketch called "The Roman Numerals of Love," which was a doo-wop band in ancient Greece learning Roman numerals. I'll send it to you. It's really lovable. Okay,
I'm sure it's not Canadian.
I mean, it seems like it's Canadian, to be fair. I'm not saying it wasn't made in Canada. I'm just saying. And then it had MathNet. The last 15 minutes were always an installment of the MathNet. It was like a weekly mystery show that was based on Dragnet. But, again, no DVR. You missed that Friday episode, you basically never found out what happened in that mystery. I mean, it might never come back.
The telephone tree of getting someone to tape something for you.
Oh my God. Yeah, you have to call someone to call someone, and you tape it, and then you got to go to their house and get the VHS and hope that they did it right.
And then you have to give it back because someone else is going to want to watch it too.
Right. Yeah. And then
in this category, there's two that are missing. Isn't there? You didn't watch Reading Rainbow?
I saw it once in a while, but I couldn't tell you when it was on.
And Carmen Sandiego, I feel like I watched that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Carmen Sandiego was on after school. That was a good one.
One of the best things I've learned in my recent years about Carmen Sandiego is that I have a colleague at work who was on Carmen Sandiego as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, where is that episode?
Oh, no, we've watched it many times at work, and I've watched it with my kids.
Amazing.
Amazing.
I'm glad I brought that up.
It was amazing. I will show it to you guys. It's incredible. That's a great show. I was a little bit older, but
right, which makes sense why I was a little younger.
Wasn't too old for it because I definitely watched them. Yeah.
Great a cappella group.
Rockapella. Do it rockapella was what they would say, and that was like their line. People said that for years. That was like their Do it, Rockapella.
It is that show was a big deal.
They got to bring back that state. They got to bring back that saying. Do it, Rockapella.
Do it, Rockapella. All right. Here.
And then in the later years, when I was really just full into rerun sitcoms. I mean, I guess I was always into rerun sitcoms. And what's great is that if it was airing syndicated after school, it was like any of the rules about what was appropriate and not appropriate completely out the door, right? Like it was showing at 5:30, it must be okay. I wouldn't say like Cheers is 100% okay for a 9-year-old.
I mean, I think what happened when we watched it was that we just didn't get the jokes a lot of the time.
Yes, but I watched Night Court, which it does like it is both wonderful and like does not hold up. I'm very interested to find out the new Night Court that's coming out where Melissa Rauch is going to play.
There's a new Night Court
with John Larroquette and then Melissa Rauch, who was in
my
Bronze.
Gosh. Yeah.
And she was in The Big Bang Theory, but I'm not going to watch that show. But she's really talented. So she's going to play Harry Stone's daughter, who's a judge or something like that. But the amount of character, like jokes in Night Court about Dan Fielding, like having sex with stewardesses and prostitutes was a lot for 10 and 11-year-olds. Like a lot for 10
just assume most of it went over your head.
Except that I obviously remembered, like it was, you're right, it was abstract. But so Night Court was my big one. And I know it was for Howie as well. And you could catch Night Court on Channel 11. And then you'd catch it at 5:30 on Channel 03. And the reason why I say 03 is that in order to get to Channel 3, you had to type 03. There was no like 3 in the enter button. It was just an old-timey TV. And then I was telling my kids that Night Court, by that point, the snacks were usually over, and I was up in the den. And in the den, we had this very small den with a small TV. And
because we couldn't eat upstairs. So if you wanted to have your snack and your show, you had to go downstairs.
Have fruit upstairs.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Or roast marshmallows in the fireplace. Those are our options. And
but the best is like how then you switch to upstairs because everybody always preferred to watch TV upstairs.
Yeah, in the cozier room with the tiny TV. It was just great. But I could lay on the floor with a pillow under my head, and then I just change the channels with my toes on the TV. So that was mine.
So old timey.
Yeah.
Well, Becky and I can add to yours and say that for sure. May it rest in peace. We watched The Cosby Show.
That's it did have reruns.
A lot. Becky and I that was Becky's nap after school
from 5 to 6 or whenever it was on. There was an hour of 2 back-to-back episodes. I didn't actually watch it, but I would always curl up on the couch upstairs and take a nap.
That's true. And that was one of those shows where, and there are many shows like this where if you got one of the like spot seasons, but then if you got like the Cousin Pam season, and I'm not knocking the actor. I'm not knocking the actor.
Cut out. You fully cut out.
Oh, really?
No, you're.
No, I could see our levels. Anyways,
I couldn't hear.
I'm not knocking the actor, but they're just like a lot of those sitcoms. Really, like we are very lucky. We live in a time where a lot of shows are good until the end, because it has to do with the whole like constant feedback from fans. But in those days, they just kept the. Right? Could you imagine if you got home and you're watching Happy Days and you got one of the episodes when Richie was no longer on the show?
Right, exactly.
So
I only associate watching Happy Days with being at Nana and Papa's house.
No, really?
I only ever remember seeing that.
I think you're just transposing Happy Days into their house because their house was that era.
So I don't have a single memory of watching that show in Montreal. And the only show I think that was ever on at Nana and Papa's was Happy Days and Jeopardy. Oh, that was it.
I love Happy Days so much. Any other shows that you all watched?
After school, my big one was.
I guess you had to watch what I watched.
I watched it, and then by the time you left,
Cosby Show was one that we watched. I
was falling asleep on the couch after school.
Okay,
Oprah was definitely a thing.
Now that we've, and I can't wait to hear, especially all of our friends that we grew up with. I want to hear people's messages of what they watched and what snacks they ate. Oh, and also probably some dad's cookies but those were more like school snacks. Like you got to take those to school.
We'd sneak in and grab them from the big box. They'd shuffle down and you could take one.
When you realize you have that agency as a kid, right? Like there's this period where you would never touch it. And then you get old enough to realize, wait a minute, like I can take these cookies. No one's going to notice.
Right. No, it's not that you have permission, but you realize how chaotic the household actually is. And you're like, no one's watching these cookies.
Exactly. No one's paying attention.
Mom will claim that she knew exactly what we were taking. No.
I don't know.
No.
That's some retcon right there.
She's just keeping the mystery alive. Okay. So let's talk about, now you're going to put on your sommelier hats.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a name for this segment other than it's pairing, if you will. And I'm going to name a few shows that were on at that time, either after school or near the time after school. And
I find this is such a great category. This is so great.
And I would love to know what you would pair, what snacks you would pair these with. So a big thing when we were kids, which I dipped into, but I was a little bit too old for, was the Disney afternoon. And the anchor of the Disney afternoon, the most important show in the Disney afternoon,
was DuckTales for sure.
Oh, the best.
Yeah. DuckTales, woo.
Like Tailspin grew out of DuckTales. Launchpad was in.
I loved both of those shows.
Was also in a Darkwing Duck.
Darkwing Duck.
Anyways, Darkwing.
Oh, you know what? I watched a ton of Chippendale.
Okay, Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Rescue Rangers.
I've seen like every episode of that.
So, what would you pair?
Milk and cereal.
Milk and cereal. Which cereal?
Probably Crispix.
Crispix. Okay, that's it.
With DuckTales?
That's less sugary than I would expect for a DuckTales pair.
Do you think I could get my hands like? What did we have at the time? You know what? You know what we probably had at the time, which I know we had at the time.
The
Cookie Crisp. Or Captain Crunch.
We had Captain Crunch at the time?
You know, we had Captain Crunch for a long time until one day I found a maggot in it and then Mom never bought it again.
Oh my God.
Maybe Cookie Crisp. I would probably eat Cookie Crisp.
So these pairings have to be things that we actually would have had at our house, or they could just be anything.
Anything.
Okay.
Just answered with this realistic answer.
Okay. I'm going with
and milk and cereal.
I'm going with goldfish from the massive milk carton that they would come in. Like that huge Costco goldfish.
Yeah. It's just a giant milk carton.
Milk carton.
I already have my next.
Would make these
10,000 goldfish in there.
I have my next answer.
Okay. All right. So the next show, this one was also on reruns, but again, we were a little bit older. I was already really locked into Night Court. Roseanne was often a after-school show.
It's true. Okay. 100%. Do you remember this snack? Mini pretzels. Dipped straight into the container.
Cream cheese.
Yeah,
that's great.
I remember the moment I just did that. I was like,
and that was a snack.
And that was a snack.
It would have been pretzels, and you just take the whole like tub of cream.
You'd feel like the salt and everything. It was such a snack of desperation. But Mom would look at it and be like, "That's a great idea." Yes. Mom was so supportive of our snacks.
So she'd be like, "Good job getting some protein in."
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. That was a real snack of desperation.
What?
To me, watching Roseanne was a show of desperation.
That's true. They were like, "Oh, I really want to watch TV. There's nothing else on." And it's not because
it's
it's not
a
a great
depressing.
show. It's just
that, as a 7-year-old, you don't.
It's just like always a little depressing. But I missed the snack that you just said because it cut out for me at least.
No,
is it cut out?
Saying it's a snack of desperation.
No. Oh, that one. I thought you said another snack.
The pretzels and cream cheese.
No. Oh, okay. I had a very desperate snack too, which was really like there were slim pickings. Was like those little mini bags of barbecue chips, but they were too spicy for me. The Humpty Dumpty barbecue wasn't like a mesquite.
Were a legit barbecue.
But,
it wasn't
right. It wasn't a sweet mesquite barbecue. It was.
You had to keep eating them, or the burn would take over.
I would combo the mini pretzels with the Humpty Dumpty barbecue, so I could keep eating them because my mouth was burned.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's desperation.
So that's mesquite with Roseanne. I think mesquite goes well. I mean, sorry, that's barbecue chips.
Barbecue Humpty Dumpty.
Barbecue Humpty Dumpty. Oh yeah, Humpty Dumpty chips are Canadian for sure.
No,
yeah, for sure. And it was one of those '80s bags. It was like a silver bag and just like a little potato with a smiley face sitting on a wall, and that was the whole design. Because the chips spoke for themselves. Okay, now this one
is easy for me. This one's very easy.
I was a little bit older, but it's a masterpiece. And I loved this show because I was the same age as the characters of this show while it was happening. And that is Boy Meets World.
That is epic.
Boy Meets World, I would only ever want to watch upstairs in the den because that's a cozy space to watch a cozy show. So I'm not watching Boy Meets World in the basement, which means by default, I have to eat fruit. And the only fruit I would want to eat is I would take, remember we had those wooden salad bowls, those like giant wooden bowls, and I would fill an entire wooden bowl with maybe a dozen of those of the clementines.
A dozen clementines.
That's why I have like severe acid issues now. I'm stemming back to my childhood.
You're making me now rethink how little I supervise what my kids eat.
And I would go with like, I'm not kidding, a dozen of those little clementines, and I would plow through every single one while watching back-to-back episodes of Boy Meets World. That because I have to watch it upstairs.
Boy Meets World is deserving of cheese and crackers.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Like you,
but you'd have to watch it in the basement.
You'd have to watch it in the basement. You'd watch it in the basement.
What cheese? What cheese are we talking about here? And what crackers? Like the handy snacks? You remember
the little tiny Ritz
with some Ritz?
Yeah, cheddar is the only cheese we had as kids, and then like the little tiny, like the really small Ritz.
We did have bricks of mozzarella.
Yeah.
Those balls of mozzarella.
Yeah,
but I would not have known what to do with those.
Okay.
It's just cheddar and some of the little cheese.
Okay,
That's,
well, see,
it's highbrow. It's a highbrow show.
So you're saying that makes me think of handy snacks. The handy snacks were incredible because you get
with
four little like saltine crackers, and
I don't remember having those.
A little plastic spreader and a little tub of cheese, and you'd pull off the top, and then there's different approaches you could take. You could do like a full dip of your cracker. You could do a sandwich. You could just do a little smear on top.
I feel like you could sneak a Baby Bell upstairs. Nobody would have known.
A Baby Bell.
Be careful with that wax.
So you can have the handy snack, or you would just put as little as possible on the crackers, and then at the end, just like eat the cheese by itself.
It's not like the cheese.
But for Boy Meets World, I will shout out to Jenny Ann Hochberg, Mike Valdez, and Danielle Kushner, who are my internet buddies who are very into the 90s. This is my 90s crew. And in tribute to them, because we have talked about this a lot with them, is a transition away from the handy snacks. You got to look at Dunkaroos. Now, we were not allowed to have Dunkaroos.
No way.
We had Dunkaroos at our house.
Dunkaroos, it was just tiny. It was a handy snack, but they were, these geniuses were like, what if we made, instead of a cracker and cheese, where there's some protein, I guess, what if we just had cookies and frosting? And
you were really crafty. You could trade some kid at school for like a cool bag of Beasley for their Dunkaroos.
Right. If you had something exotic,
like a good pizza flavored Beasley, you could get their Dunkaroos. So that's the only time you're ever getting Dunkaroo.
So Dunkaroos for Boy Meets World, because my 90s friends love Boy Meets World and they love Dunkaroos. All right, now let's close out the category with, I think, a universally beloved show. It was we saw it come on television, regular TV, and then all the way through syndication, right? Is The Simpsons. The Simpsons was on in the afternoon. I think The Simpsons actually overtook Night Court at a certain point.
But it was on at first. It was on at night, and then these are reruns.
I associate watching Simpsons with Shai, of course, because that's the person who I would have watched it with, who introduced me to it. And so it has to be, for me, a very special Shai snack, which would be a marshmallow microwaved. Yeah, it could either just be a plain marshmallow that's been microwaved and you have to eat really, really quickly before it calcifies, or his version of Rice Krispie Squares, which is like, instead of making it like slowly over the stove, you just like microwave everything together and like mush it around and then eat it while it's still.
I will say, Becky and I once tried to make Rice Krispie Squares, right? It was you and me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need the recipe. And I just put some Rice Krispies in a bowl with some marshmallows, and we microwaved them. The marshmallow got to be like as huge as the entire microwave. And then when it came out, it was like all mushy. I was like, well, I guess we have to put it in the fridge to make it hard. So we shoved it in the fridge, and then all of the sugar crystallized, and Mom, like, you couldn't, a
it
drill
was hard,
wouldn't have
like you break a tooth.
But
now I make some killer Rice Krispie Squares.
I would definitely associate Simpsons with poorly homemade Rice Krispie Squares.
I don't think I could beat that.
And I would say the only other thing I could think it would be deserving of is, and this was very exclusive, would be a microwave bag of popcorn.
Oh, right.
Get your hands on a microwave.
Days.
Right. If you could get your hands on a microwave, because we used to do my mom and dad used to make it for us on the stove or in that popper where it always burned.
It was always so dry
and so burnt.
And the salt, both never stuck to it.
But then we'd got the bags, and the bags, if you just undercook them just a little bit, they were so fluffy.
Yeah.
But if you overcook it by 3 seconds, the whole thing is burnt.
Yeah. The whole thing. The bag would basically
catch on fire. But I feel like The Simpsons is deserving of a microwave.
Oh. All right, thank you both for this walk down memory lane. Let's now go to our recs and our shout outs, or our shout outs and recs as we call this segment. I'm going to start off with we talked about Happy Days just now. That's why a little bit why this is on my mind. So for years, Mom has been telling me about this movie, Lords of Flatbush, and this is the first. I think it's the first feature film to feature Sylvester Stallone and Henry Winkler. And I think, because it came out in 1974.
74, yeah.
And it was written partially by Stallone, but I don't think he was the main writer. But it's very short, it's like an 80-minute movie, slice of life of these four.
There's 4 writers.
Yeah, but it's a slice of life of these 4 guys in the T-Birds, the equivalent of the T-Birds. They call it their athletic and social club. And it just takes place over a couple of days. One of them is thinking about getting married. Another one is thinking about what they do next. Anyways, and in some ways, I guess it's incomplete. It's a very short, low budget movie. But on the other hand, you can really see the incredible talent of these guys, particularly Stallone and Henry Winkler. And
we're only a year apart, if I just could say that.
And
if you look at them today, Henry Winkler looks like his age.
And
Stallone looks like a mannequin of somebody frozen in time.
And so it's just
it looks like a wax figure of Madame Tussauds.
And they're just like these hoodlums, and some of it's funny, some of it's heartwarming, some of it's dated. But considering that's near where Dad grew up, it was really kind of nice to touch base with that movie. And so I was glad. It's one of those things I didn't want to not ever watch and not get a chance to talk with Mom about. So I'm excited to talk with her about that.
Can I just read you the poster, please, of this movie? Sure. The poster says, "When was the last time someone gave you a hickey? Lords of Flatbush. It was 1958 when making love meant making out."
So
what?
I find that
there's a lot happening on this poster.
Well, I find what's interesting about it is that it's sort of there's moments where maybe it plays like a Animal House, not Animal House. I think it's a sad movie, or not sad. It's a dark. There's a lot of emotion in this movie, but I guess at the time also there was a little bit of a I could see why they played it that way, because there are some sort of sex comedy-ish moments in it, but it's not a comedy by any means.
Interesting. And it's also the 70s where they're calling back to the late 50s where things were pure.
It would be here, want to hear something crazy? So that's the 70s, calling back to the 50s. Okay.
Late 50s. This is 74 calling back to 58.
For us, that would be calling back to 2000. Your mind just blown.
Not even.
Right now, if there's a movie that comes out that calls back that far back, that's 20 years. That's 2000. That is not calling back to the 80s.
No, it's not even, Shai. It's less. 58 to 74.
Yeah. No, I mean, anyway.
It's 15 years. That's not a lot.
And then I want to shout out to 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. Brandon Jones, that's an I Told You show. It's a podcast where one of the Ringer guys, whose name escapes me right now, his name is Rob Harvila. And it's almost like an essay is the way I would describe it, like an oral essay. And I listened to the episode about REM's Night Swimming, and it was just fantastic and amazing. And then last but not least, a huge shout out. I'm very lucky. I have great friends. I have, one friend that takes me to the Emmys. Then the next, not even a week later, Josh Crew took me to unbelievable tickets that were supplied to us by Matt Bilmes who was in the Pearl Jam fan club. Like, we were essentially second row. Eddie Vedder was practically sitting in our lap for Pearl Jam in Nashville, and it was an incredible show.
Not zoomed in.
Right,
It's
just how close we were. It was
so cool,
an incredible show, an incredible 24 hours in Nashville. Had the best time with Josh. So thank you, Josh. There's nothing for him to complain about on that trip. I'll tell you that. Except
try him.
Well, I gotta say this.
Challenge accepted.
We did go to dinner. There's a lot of it's whatever. We went to dinner, and in the end, we just went to some bar, and I ate these bar food chicken wings that it's like 2.5 days later, and my body is still digesting. They were amazing when I tasted them.
Nashville is hot chicken.
Oh, I didn't.
Like
we weren't focused on that, and
okay.
Anyways, it was a mistake. This was like you go. This was like
when in doubt, get the mozzarella sticks.
Right. This was like when Allie goes to like a barbecue restaurant with us, and she goes, "Oh, there's sushi on the menu. I'll have that." Like that was that kind of. It was a screw up.
Is that it?
That's all I got.
Okay. As I told you at the beginning of the show, I've watched the first hour of Jurassic World Dominion. That is it.
Okay.
We've been unpacking. I've been put my kids to bed at 8 and I fall asleep by about 8:30 every night. I've been so tired.
Okay.
So I haven't really been watching.
I've dabbled in a few things. I've rewatched, like I mentioned last week, some White Lotus with mom, not dad. It's so good. Really great the second time around. Watched some Bad Sisters on Apple Plus.
I want to see that.
I'm enjoying it so far. I just love Sharon Horgan. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see where it goes, but so far and Hild from Last Kingdom's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I watched a few minutes of Bad Sisters.
And isn't Maid's mom from Sex Education in it? Is she one of them?
She has a mom?
Oh, Maeve's mom is the main character. Yeah. As one of the main characters. She's one of the sisters. Right. Exactly. The cast is great so far. It's good. I've seen 2 episodes. We'll see. And then I've watched Love Life season 2 with the guy who played Chidi on The Good Place.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
I really loved the Anna Kendrick season. This season, I think I've seen like 4 or 5 episodes. It's a little slower. It's good though.
I like the Anna Kendrick season, but I didn't like it enough to like restart and invest in a new character.
I don't think you'll like the second season then, because it's a little bit slower. I think even, and so, but I'm committed. And then I have a half hour left of Do Revenge, which I'm going to need you guys to watch, and we're going to have to talk about it.
Okay.
There's a lot of layers that I just really feel like I need to get through. So it's good homework for you guys, because this is a pop culture podcast, and that's the newest teen movie with the girl from Riverdale who you like. I assume because you love that show, you guys.
Yeah.
Camila Mendes. Yeah, she's awesome.
And Maya Hawke, who I love her. Awesome. So yeah, the cast is great.
Speaking of homework shows for people, track down Chasing Molly. Okay, track down.
Oh my gosh, I started that. I also started that, but we're talking about that next week.
Yeah. It's a pretty funny movie. I mean, it's a very funny movie.
The few opening scenes that I've seen are really funny.
It's like a Jewish Ghostbusters is the best way to describe Jewish Ghostbusters / heist
con artists.
Yeah, con artists. But we will be talking about that next week. Well, thank you. I love you both, my sisters.
Love you, man. Love you, woman.
You guys are so awesome. And have a great week.
All right.
Oh, wait, sorry. Where can people follow you?
Oh, well, I don't feel like it's that important. At Paper BK Princess on Twitter.
Lily, where can people follow you?
Chi K Gomez on Twitter.
And people can follow me. I will respond. I'll come hang out with you in your town at this rate. At
the rate you're going.
Number 4 table, Pancake 4 table on Twitter and Instagram. Or at Friday Night Movie for the whole show on Twitter and Instagram. FridayNightMoviePod.com. Sign up for our Almost Never newsletter. And give us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's always helpful for us. And the theme music is by What Does It Eat? And we dance our way into the afternoon. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.